welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want. I'm Jasmine, host of the show. And today I'm gonna follow my wave of talking to the mentor coaches from Super Coach Academy, and I've invited Claire Schutz. Hi, Claire.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me along.
Claire lives in the UK. Well, are you still living there? Because you just moved, right?
Yes, but I do live in the UK, that's true.
Yeah, okay.
I'm in London and some of the time in Oxfordshire.
Okay. So Claire, can you tell the people who are listening what you're up to right now? I know that you're working on something new, but I'm going to let you talk about it.
Sure. So I've been a coach for, I don't know, around 15 years. And just recently, I've set up something called a CIC, which is a community interest company. And basically, it's a not-for-profit. And I set it up with a longtime friend and colleague of mine called Julian Fraser. And it's specifically to help parents or members of family living with disability. And from a three principles perspective, we'll be looking at well-being, resilience, and hopefully giving them a different type of experience or allowing them to experience their day-to-day lives differently through the understanding.
Nice. And this is like right now it's full on, or you're just like at the beginning of it?
No, we're very much at the beginning.
Okay.
As we speak today, it hasn't actually been launched yet. We both of us, both Julian and I are very busy. We work in many different arenas. And so this is something that we do every week, a little bit. And but it's a kind of project that we're both very, very passionate about. It's something that Julian and I have been discussing on and off for maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. That the reason being is that Julian has a daughter who has cerebral palsy, and she requires what's called waking care. So she's quite profoundly impacted. And I also have cerebral palsy, but to a lesser degree. And so it just made sense for us to come together and we can help families in this way.
Okay. And just for the person who doesn't know, like, I don't know what cerebral palsy is. Like, I'm
well done.
I'm saying it in French in my head, you know. Paralysie cérébrale, I got that, but cerebral palsy, I can't even say that.
So basically, translated, it means kind of paralysis of the brain, and that sounds pretty heavy. But essentially, what happened to both me and actually, no. What happened to me was, I was going to talk about Julian's daughter, but actually I'll just talk about me. So what happened to me was that I was born a long time ago, and I was very premature. And I stopped breathing for a while after I was born. And what happens when you stop breathing, then parts of your inherent neurological information start to get wiped out. So luckily for me, I didn't stop breathing for very long. But I didn't know I instinctively didn't know how to walk. And I had to learn how to walk, and through different neurological pathways. And if you were to see me walking, the gait I have is not similar to most people, but I'm very lucky that I can walk.
Yeah. Nice. So based on that perspective, I'd like to talk about living the life we want.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, like, you know, like I'm lucky. I've got everything I need to, doing everything it needs to. And yet, you know, I have spent parts of my life in self-pity of, oh, I should be this and I should be that, and I shouldn't, you know, like, I should be this, I should be that. And then you become aware of other people having life, I'm going to say harder, but it's not harder. It's like you think it's harder, you know, it's just, it's different. And you can tell me if I'm wrong there, but like, how has it been for you? Like, because I've seen you, I've been around you, you're always smiling, you've got this great aura. Like, so how has that been for you?
So I would say that my disability, and I do consider it a disability, has been my biggest tool for spiritual growth, essentially. And that might sound very kind of wafty, so I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to bring it down a few notches. Like, it was when I was younger, I was very lucky. I was born into a very lovely, warm, protective family. And I didn't really realize until I was, I think, maybe 11 years old that I had a disability. I knew that I was different, but I didn't realize that I had a disability in the way in which society would call it. I didn't realize that when I went out and about in the world, everyone would stare at me and think I was different, and often treat me like I was mentally impaired. And sometimes people would come up to me and say, "You're the devil," and like all sorts of crazy things used to go down. And when I was younger, that was really hard. It was really hard. And there was a point in time in which I didn't know whether I was able or strong enough to live that life. But one day, and I see this now, I would say in terms of 3P language, I had what's called an insight. So I had fresh thinking about it. And in that insight, I suddenly realized that I had a choice. I could either feel sorry for myself and sit in the corner for the rest of my life and not do much, or I could accept my situation the best I could and just get on with it. And as I looked at those two options, for me as a person, I knew that the second option was the only really viable one for me. And so I think what the cerebral palsy has done, I think, is prompted me to look deeper into life, to look beyond the form, essentially, and to look, I've actually traveled all over the world. Since I was 17 years old, I've traveled all over the world. I'm very interested in all types of alternative therapy and healing and all that kind of stuff. So as I traveled the world, because I was interested and because I think any healer would love to have a go with someone with a disability, I met many remarkable people from many different fields. And I've learned, I don't know, sorry, I don't really know how to put it, apart from, I think it's prompted growth in an area that might not have been the case otherwise. And I'm very grateful. And I just want to preface that by saying, I have an amazing life. I really have an amazing life. I have a job that I love. I love having this conversation with people. I love having it's such an honor for me, and I'm sure you know about this, Jasmine, to sit with another human being and connect with them on a deep level about the nature of life. I mean, I can't think of a more fun thing to do. And in the process of that conversation, it's both hopefully beneficial on both sides. So it's really wonderful. And so I had that wonderful job, and then I have an amazing husband, and I have a fantastic 20-year-old daughter. So both of whom are able-bodied, and I have lots of friends. I mean, I'm just very blessed.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like, I get what you mean by, it's brought growth. And what showed up for me is how the death of my mother brought growth to me. Like my mother's illness, she had dementia, and my mother and I have been we became very close when I was in my 20s, and we were like basically friends, like I remember all of my 20s, Thursday nights was Mom and Jasmine night, and we'd go out and just shop, basically. It's like she wanted to go places and we'd shop, and the fear of her, of losing her, was very present for me. Like, you know, at night when you go to bed and you're alone with yourself
Yeah.
and your thoughts,
Yeah.
that was like the predominant thought. And I was like, and I couldn't do intellectually, I couldn't do anything with that fear.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was like, what if she dies? Well, she is going to die. Well, what if I die before her? Maybe I should die before her. Yeah, but if I die before her, she's going to be sad. I don't want her to be sad. Like, it was like torment, right?
Mm.
And I've been in the conversation of transformation for a while. I have to admit, I've been in the conversation since my 30s, although it wasn't the three principles. And then I got into the three principles, and it just became deeper, you know, like I just saw it at a deeper level. And I think that every day I again see it at a deeper level. But I saw it the most around taking care of my mother, and how, you know, these things that my head would say, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And I was just like smooth as silk. And it was like, it's okay. Like, I have this visual of, I had a pool back then, and she would help me clean the pool, right? And but she wasn't helping me. She was making it worse. But I was just like, it's okay. She would just like do this in the pool, and really all she was doing is moving it around. And I was with a friend, and I remember that friend saying, it amazes me how you're not fazed by it. You just keep telling her she's doing a great job, even though you know she's not. And I never seen it, how it was just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. She wants, it was more important for her to feel good.
Yeah, for you. So what is it that you saw that made you able to navigate that situation in that way?
It was the letting go of my mental construct of how things should be, and
I
how
think
things
so
started.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've just knocked on the head one of the most powerful lessons anyone can learn. I think the shoulds are the way people beat themselves up over and over again. How they expect expectations. One of the very first talk I ever gave was about expectations, and expectations are just, you know, thinking about how you think life should be. People make it up, they project it forward, and then they beat themselves up or other people up if it's not how they made it up to be. So what you said is so profoundly powerful. So you got to see beyond that, and what is also wonderful, you didn't say it in this way, but also it allowed you, dropping those expectations allowed you to connect with your mum on a much deeper level for that period of time.
Oh yeah. It was like, it was the most beautiful time. Even her death, I mean, as much as I was sad, and as much as it was just like, I was very present to how I was being in the moment, like who I was in the moment. I was really present to, oh yeah, I could go up there and start bawling my brains out. But I was like, okay, now she needs to say bye to her husband. She needs to say bye to her kids. And I was on the phone with my brothers, and I was like, bros, you got to come. And my younger brother was like, it's okay. I saw her yesterday. She'll be fine. He was like, you're freaking out. And I was like, no, you don't understand. You have to come. You have to come now. I called my older brother. My older brother got it. He was like on his way. My father didn't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But we were a unit in that moment. And what was really amazing, I might choke up right now. What was really amazing was that, yeah, I'm showing up.
It's okay. Yeah.
We all said the same thing to her. Like, we all said, it's okay, Mom, you can go. It was just like really amazing. Like, I first sat with her and I said, Mom, I'm going to take care of them. Don't worry. You can go. It's fine. And then I called my brother, and my older brother came, and I left him alone. And he sat with her and he said, it's okay, Mom, you can go. And it was just like amazing how we were a unit in that moment, no matter how much I would think that we weren't, you know? And it was beautiful. Even though there's the crying and the sadness, it's still beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. When something really important happens in life, all the extraneous thought drops away, and the connection and the importance comes through in that way. I was also lucky enough to be with my father when he died, and that was a very long time ago now. And I said to him as well, it's okay, you can go now. You know, you go with peace and love.
Yeah, it's you know what it all comes down to, and I've said this before in other episodes. I mean, I'm people who are hearing me are probably saying, "Oh, she's repeating," but it's because you need to get it. I mean, it's not what you think it's going to look like. It's not like living the life you want is not just about, having fun and playing, and it is that, but it's not all, hearts and rainbows, basically.
Absolutely.
And
It's about
it doesn't take
being present,
away.
isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't take away from the beauty of it, is what I'm saying. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I interrupted you. No, I was agreeing with you, really. It's really about being present in the moment and going with what is. And everything is beautiful. Who said, it's so funny. It's so interesting to me. I think some people who are on the self-development path think that there's a place to get to where you're happy all the time, and as you said, all rainbows and hearts and all that. For me it's not like that. For me, what I've learned and the principles I've learned, seen this really deeply with the principles, is that whatever place you're in, good, bad, there is no good or bad. Whatever place you're in is perfect, and it's all part of the human gamut of what's possible emotionally. And I would like to be able to feel all different types of emotions and be in all different types of places, and know that it will pass, because it's thought and it's transient, and life is transient. Nothing is static. That's what's so exciting about life, unless people are desperately trying to hold on to something, in which case that can cause a lot of heartache. But what I loved about your story as well was there was a sense of you were willing to let your mom pass on, and for life to evolve as it was going to evolve, and you kind of greeted that with grace rather than just thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
And that's very beautiful.
Thanks. I really, and I was getting a lot of compliments from my surroundings back then, and I was a little bit resistant on, like, well, I'm just being me, but when when it all came to a culmination, I just got very grateful for it, because the last 3 years of her life were the most beautiful that we shared. And I remember, like, I'll say she probably suffered the past month, in the whole of her illness. It was like probably a month where it was like she was probably like, I'm in hell. But what I was also grateful that she didn't have that mental capacity to tell herself all of this stuff, you know, because I saw so much of her persona fall away
Mm.
in the illness. You
Mm.
know, like she was very strong, you know, before, but then like it's kind of like that part of her brain that memorized, I'm shy, this, I'm like all of those things that she had constructed herself to be was gone.
Mm.
So she was in the moment. And I was able to see that because of this whole conversation that we're having, where, you know, when you live in the moment, this is where it all happens. Right before we got on, I was listening to a workshop that Mavis Karn did for us during Super Coach Academy, and I something hit me. She said something, and I wrote it down. She said, "The best thing happens when our heads are clear, our hearts are full, we're relaxed, and we're present."
Amen.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
It was
beautiful.
like, yeah. So it is like, it's not a doing, eh? Like, how would you qualify it? Like, it's not a doing of looking inside. Like, you know, because I've been in this self-help conversation for so long, and they're like, okay, look within, look within, look within, you know, and I was doing the look within and looking for something. It's not really a doing, right?
No, for me, it's a seeing, it's an understanding, it's a knowing, and it does come from within. That's why people say, look within. It definitely comes from within. Like the insight that I mentioned before when I was at that crossroads about how I was going to live my life, that fresh thought came from within me, and it came unexpectedly and it came out of the blue. But the more I found that the more I look in the direction of, the more curious I get about how does the system work? Like, you know, the first time somebody said to me, because I used to be a coach in a completely different modality, and I was really, I had a very successful business with a friend of mine. We'd both left, we'd been working in TV for, I'd been working in TV for 20 years, and we both left TV together and retrained as coaches, and we set up a business, and it was really successful, but it was all around tools and techniques. And I could see that although they were really helpful, they were only helpful as long as the person utilizing them was in a certain state of mind, including myself. When I got really, really upset, I couldn't access what I'd learned. It wasn't, you know, so I began to get a little bit kind of disillusioned and thought maybe I've, you know, chosen the wrong profession to move into. But then I came across the three principles, and what I saw with that was that it wasn't, this is not a doing, this is not a tool or technique, it's an understanding. It's a curiosity about what could I see about the way I create my experience. So the first time somebody said to me, you know, I think your experience is created through your thinking, I was like, yeah, I know that, you know, and but I used to, I think before as a coach, I would have said, change your thinking and you change your life. Like that's a very common thing. But now, or yeah, now I would say, understand the nature of thought and your life changes. So that's a very, very, very different thing, because with a fresh understanding, everything changes without you having to do anything. That sounds kind of crazy, but that's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. People are probably going, what?
Yeah. So the more, so like to, sorry, to be more, to bring it back to more down to basics. So I think, I can't remember who the first person was who talked directly to me about thought, but I think maybe I was at a talk I remember going to a talk. The first time I heard about the principles was definitely from Michael in London, but I don't think in that talk he talked about the principles, or if he did, I didn't hear him.
Yeah.
You know, like, but I heard something that was really, really profound, and then went on to become his apprentice because of that. But I think the first person who I heard like break it down in terms of was I think Aaron Turner, and I think he said to me, or he said to the group, it wasn't me, you know, your experience comes from your thinking, full stop, right? And it was the first time I heard that. And then he went on to explain that you know, you have a thought and that creates a feeling. They come together. They're not separate. Every thought comes with a corresponding feeling, and the thought and feeling together create your experience. Now, as I said, other people may have said that to me before, but that's when I really remember really hearing it. And then I went out in my life and I was like noticing, like this understanding changes people's life when they start to notice it as a reality in their experience. It doesn't make any difference at all, or very little difference as a concept.
Yeah.
As an intellectual concept. But once I started noticing, gosh, it's true. It's true. Every thought I have seems to come with a feeling. Wow. And it does seem that those two things come together. So that was on a very kind of just very personal level. I saw that. And then, you know, as I became a practitioner, I could now then explain why that was the case, you know, because thought itself is invisible. You can't pick up a thought, you know, try.
Yeah.
You know, it's invisible, it's formless, and it's transient. You know, it moves through. So then how do we experience it? Well, we have this amazing kind of special effects department, which is essentially our five senses or more, depending on who you're talking to. Let's stick to the five. And so every single thought you have creates a corresponding feeling in your body so that it becomes something tangible and real to you. And those two things together create experience. And seeing that was so profound for me, because I thought they were separate before that. I didn't realize, I don't know about you, but I really didn't realize that they came together. And so I, before this, used to go think something, and then I'd feel it, and I'd go, you see, I feel it. It must be true. And I was very sensitive, and I used to take all my feelings really seriously.
Yeah.
And then I used to act on those feelings, and then, you know, there was a whole mess. It doesn't happen anymore.
I think that, you know, feeling the feelings, like it meant that the feeling was true. You know, like if I'm feeling anxious, so then I am anxious, that I am anxious. And after this understanding, after looking in this direction, noticing stuff, like thinking something intellectually and then noticing, oh, what just happened? Then it became that, oh, I'm having anxious thoughts that is creating an anxious feeling in my body.
Exactly. It's not data about the world.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. It's telling me about my state of mind and where my thinking is at, not about the world. I didn't know that. So like when you're when you don't know that, well, let's talk about me, rather than, you know, so in the past, when I was in an anxious place or an angry place, I would act on that feeling and try and change the outside world to make myself feel better. Now I don't. Now I know, oh, those feelings are coming from my thinking, and all they're telling me, all those feelings, I'm sorry, probably so many of your other people on the podcast have talked about this. But it doesn't matter, because the more you hear it, the better. Like I listen. I go right back to the beginning all the time.
Yeah.
But those feelings are only ever telling you about your state of mind and the clarity of your thinking in that moment. And that's such a profound thing to know. So as a consequence of that, I'm far less reactive. And this comes back to your story with your mum. So you were able to not just kind of delve into a massive ocean of grief, right? You were able to stay present with your mum which is really wonderful. And because you were able to stay present, you were able to really experience what was going on in that moment and the beauty of that, rather than, you know, your experience and your thinking.
Yeah.
And there is a huge difference.
Yes, yes, definitely. And, you know, for those of you who are thinking, oh, just as a repeat, I'm just like, you know what, just be present and listen to it again, because this is the reason why I'm doing the podcast and I'm having the same conversation with everybody. It's just a different point of view. We're all pointing to the same place. We're all pointing to the present.
Yeah.
And we're all pointing to this beautiful energy that we all are, that is love.
Yeah.
And the more that I spend time in love, the more I want to spend time there, you know? And I could see that there was a time in my life where I was really in my head and I was really annoyed with being in my head. And I was like, oh, am I going to think of this again? Is this happening again? But it was all about the world, you know, oh, this world again, I'm stuck in this. And yeah, it's inevitable if you believe that to go into despair. It's inevitable. It's just, but there's it, that's not it, it's not there. It's here right now in this moment.
I mean, people are always doing the best given the thinking they have in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And there's an innocence, there's a profound innocence that is really, really helpful to see. Because otherwise, you know, this is not about beating oneself up for how one was in the past at all. You know, I was how I was in the past. I did what I did because it made sense to me at the time, because of what I knew at that time. What I'm eternally grateful for is that the understanding has allowed me freedom. Basically, I would say I have more psychological freedom these days because I understand what's going on. And so therefore I can choose, right? So if I do, it happens so rarely now, actually, but if I do get upset, instead of just reacting and acting on that feeling, I can notice and then take a moment, allow myself to settle down, and then see what makes sense to me from a more settled place. And that sounds like, maybe that just sounds too simple to even bother with, but actually it's really life-changing.
Yeah. Yesterday I was listening to a show, and in this show, it was a true crime show, and the guy had been accused. Actually, the guy had confessed to a murder that he did not do, and so they were on him for like 16 hours, talking to him, trying to get him to say that he had murdered this girl. So he finally said that, and then they sent him to his a cell for like a couple hours, and all the thinking settled. And when he came back, he was like, no, I didn't do this. And they were so upset with him that he changed his mind. No, he just settled into it. And they finally, you know, 40 years later, because of DNA and stuff, they found the real killer. But I was just amazed at how it was just showing everything that we talked about.
Yeah, yeah. I was very lucky once. I went and a very good person, a very wonderful person for you to interview would be Kathy Casey, because she's absolutely brilliant, and she spent many years teaching the principles within the justice system in America. And I was very lucky to go and spend a day with her once there, and I heard people say, we were in front of a group of maybe, I don't know, 60, 70, a lot of people, a lot of guys, maybe not that many, but there were quite a few anyway. And I heard them say time and time again, they'd been learning the principles for a while with her, you know, if only I'd known this, I wouldn't, if only I had known that I didn't have to act on my thinking, I wouldn't have pulled the trigger, or I wouldn't have done this or done that or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I also heard them say that, you know, even though I'm incarcerated, with this understanding, I have more mental freedom than I've ever had in my life before.
Yeah.
So it's very, very profound, really profound.
Beautiful. Well, Claire, before we end, I
Yeah.
want to ask you, because at the end of the show, what I do is I ask for a nugget of wisdom. So before we end, would you have a nugget of wisdom for the people listening to us?
Be kind to yourself.
I
You're
love
more
it.
beautiful than you can ever imagine. You are perfect just as you are. And I'm saying this as a disabled person. You can never be broken. You are whole, perfect, full of love, wisdom, and resilience. And I wish you all well.
Thank you so much, Claire. So thank you for accepting my invitation. And I bid you good luck with everything that you're up to right now.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
And to everybody else, I'm going to say, dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want. Bye.